Hello, everybody. It's Chris. Welcome to my live show. This is a weekly live show that I call the Weekly Spinner Rack, hosted on the channel Pros and Cons. Tell you what, you guys are all here. You deserve a double salute. Boom, boom. That's right. The patented Chris double salute. That's all for you. Let's take a look at who's here in the stream. I'm a minute or two late today because I needed to reboot things, so I just wanted to be sure everything is looking good, and it seems to be good. Let's see. I'm seeing Archmage Phage, I think I saw. Iron Shell. Hello, Dave Q. Hello, Joe Dent. Hello, D. Campbell. This is going fast. Moritaka Ishada. Keith Rotenberg. Michael Emma Dogbeard. Hey, it's my sister Jean. I don't think you were here last week, right, Jeannie? Giovanni, hello. Gray, hello. Jorge, hello. David. Hello to all of you. Thank you for being here. I'll do my best to be checking in on the live chat. There's a delay there, but I'll do the best I can to look up every once in a while, try to take your questions, because trust me, a big part of the fun of this show for me is interacting with each of you. We're going to talk about comics today. I've got a bunch of the weekly comics that I'm going to do quick reviews on. Then I'm going to start drawing something, and I've got a lot of news of the week that I printed up here just so that I didn't miss anything, because there's a lot of comic book news this week. That's a good thing. So I anticipate this being, let's not even just say good, this will be a great show. And you showing up here indicates that you have that kind of emotional intelligence. Anyway, it's lovely to have you here. Just a quick note, I do have a P.O. box these days, so you can see that right there. Comic Tropes, P.O. Box 5834, Kent, Washington, 98064. That's in the good old US of A. Wow! USA, we're about guns! And, anyway, if you make your own comic and you want me to take a look at it, that's a place where you could send it. Alternately, if you want me to potentially review a book, I've had lovely people like Joe send me stuff like Captain Britain. And here's a good way for me to notice something you're saying. There's a super chat from C. Happy Rock. That's a happy name. Thank you, by the way. That really means a lot. When a super chat means a lot to me. And he says, can't stay long. Okay. But just wanted to let you know I love your videos. Oh, I always watch this stream during the week. Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. It really does. Thank you. Yeah, you know, it's exciting. Comic Tropes is at a pretty good level. Of course, I want to get much bigger, but it's at a pretty good level. It's exciting to sort of start over with this channel and grow that again. And, like, be excited about, like, every 100 subscribers or something. Oh my goodness! Oh, this is not fun to see. Joe Dent, excuse me, Steve Sorensen is what I meant to say. I've got Joe Dent on the brain. Steve with a super chat, but saying here today, but I got COVID. Steve, you're a regular here. We all wish you well. I'm really sorry to hear that. Just take it easy. Be careful, and if you think that it's bad in any way, don't hesitate to get to the hospital. It's serious business, so take that seriously. Hopefully you get a quick recovery. I really hope so. I wish I had known about that Fantastic Four book. I haven't been to my local comic store since I spent over $50 before getting hit with COVID in July. Geez, that's two of you out there. Yikes. Well, I guess it just shows us that unfortunately we're not past it. We've moved on in a lot of ways, haven't we? Travel and stores and events are open up, but it's still out there. It didn't just go away magically. So be careful. Take care of each other and take care of yourselves. Because when I got it, like 2 years ago, I was in the hospital for a full week in the PCU, and it was as close as I've ever come to dying. I was convinced that those were my final days, and it was terrifying. It really was. But I've come back stronger. Keith, hello. Thanks again for that awesome custom Funko Pop of me sent in. That's really nice. Am I keeping up with the new Ghost Rider series? No. I have to admit I haven't, but I have heard good things. Tell you what I have read. Let's get into that because there's a fair amount. So let me bang out some pretty quick mini reviews. This is just high-level thoughts. First of all, this is a pretty big book that came out this week. Fantastic Four, Full Circle. As you can see, a nice hardcover, pretty good size book by Alex Ross. Alex the Boss Ross. But here's the thing. We're used to his painted comics. Marvels. Kingdom Come. I've done an episode on comic tropes about. This is all done in pen and ink. So that's different. Now, of course, the way Alex Ross paints his comics, though, is he does sort of illustrate this stuff, and then he does gouache, which is like a watercolor over that. So I wouldn't say that, like, you can definitely tell that this is Alex Ross's artwork, you know? Like, you can just tell if you've read any Alex Ross. This is still definitely him. But I like this look very much. It's a little more raw, but in some ways, it's a little less busy. I think that, like, honestly, it's a little easier to read in some ways. Now, it also gives it a little bit of a retro look since it's, you know, such classic illustration. And that's cool because this is definitely a throwback to sort of 1960s Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Fantastic Four. Kind of, honestly, a redo of one of their classic adventures going into the negative zone. It's a lot of fun, folks. It captures the family aspect. It captures the banter between the family. It you know, goes into strange areas. Look at that. That's sort of like Alex Ross's version of the negative zone is almost like a black light world. That's pretty clever. That's a cool way to present it. It's really a gorgeous book and a fun read. It matches whatever hype it's been getting. And I think that, look at like those sort of dynamic shots. That is a little Jack Kirby-esque in like all the exaggerated foreshortening, all the sort of cosmic explosions and stuff that are going on. You know, a lot of sci-fi worlds, hidden worlds and stuff. It really does feel reminiscent of that stuff. So yeah, honestly, I give this a strong recommendation. It's its own thing, but if you like Alex Ross, or you like Fantastic Four, or you just like a good standalone story, this totally is worth it. I really was impressed. I was thinking I might have been disappointed. I wasn't sure. I liked it a lot. In fact, like, out of the things Alex Ross has sort of written himself, like, definitely this is my favorite. I like the look a lot. You prefer this over his painted style, Drew? I can understand that. I think I might too. And that's not to throw any shade at his painted style. It's just, I think that this is pretty clean. It's really good storytelling. It really is. What else came out? On a whim, I picked up Marvel's latest Alien book. I haven't been reading their Alien series. The individual panels and stuff are definitely good. That's by Julius Ohta. But then the panel-to-panel storytelling is a little abrupt, right? Like, we've got some people fleeing a planet because of something going wrong scientifically. We've got some colonial marines here hurting them. Then all of a sudden they're just torn up and the aliens are there. Like, you know, we don't see the aliens appear from anywhere. They're just there. You know, I understand that that's sort of like shorthand, but it's not the clearest panel-to-panel storytelling. You know? Like, individual panels here are very pretty, but the panel-to-panel can sometimes confuse me a little. But it's not bad. I'm not trying to say it's bad in any way. The premise here is basically that, like, yeah, some of the xenomorphs have broken loose on a colony, and, you know, colonial marines always get torn up and torn to shreds and everything. So the government is trying to recruit some synthetics. Like, if you've ever seen the movies Bishop, they go after, like, a group of 5 synthetics that have just gone off to live on their own. And, you know, because synthetics don't really get targeted by the monsters as much. It's interesting. Graphic for a Marvel comic? Well, it does say parental advisory for what it's worth. So I kind of flipped through it quickly. I know what you're saying, Clay. Yeah, I mean, these are horror comics. I like horror. I like 2 out of the 6 Alien movies. Wait, if we count the Alien versus Predator, I like 2 out of the 8 Alien movies. The first 2 are great. I've watched them all. They're all interesting in their own way. This one doesn't quite... I don't know what they're going for here, whether they're trying to go more for the horror direction of Alien or the action route of Aliens. I really don't necessarily know yet out of this one story, but it is a quick, brisk 22 pages. I don't think I'm going to stick with it, but I was just curious. It's fine. What is a xenomorph? Don't be afraid to use a PowerPoint presentation to help me understand. Look, all that matters is they're aliens, and they're parasitic in nature, and they're dangerous. They're unstoppable. Moving on, I guess I hate being negative, but this is another one that I'm not super into. I'm more curious, when there's big events, I'm curious. So with doing this show, I'll jump in, give it a chance. Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, previously known as Dark Crisis. Now it's surprise. I guess we're supposed to be surprised. Oh, it's an Infinite Earths story. Now look, dialogue in this is snappy. There's some great banter between Wally West and Hal Jordan, Flash and Green Lantern. I like stuff like that. The artwork by Daniel Sampere, it's great. It really is. I have no complaints about any of this artwork. I think it's very clear. I think it's engaging. I think it's dynamic. The artwork alone, it's great. The story itself, I'm so confused. It's just got all sorts of weird cosmic stuff happening. They're referring to like side events that are happening in tie-in issues, I think. I'm pretty sure, because if not, then it's really confusing. If it's tie-in issues, okay, well, I'm not reading those, so I don't know. Characterization is good, dialogue is good, but the overall plot is just so over the top. Like, the idea of parallel universes exploding is such a big idea. I think to make it work, you have to build to it properly and have an emotional core that makes sense. For instance, Secret Wars was not too long ago by Marvel, and that was about multiverses ending, but the focus was on the Avengers knew that this was coming, and they had to make tough choices on how to try to protect their world while still being ethical. And some of them faltered. Namor was willing to let a whole nother universe die to protect his own people. That was an interesting dilemma, because you just boil it right down to, like, what are you willing to do to protect your own people? Like he was like saying, like, look, a hero might have the ability to be more ethical, but I'm also a king. I'm a leader. I have a responsibility to my people that overrides how I personally will feel about things. I thought that was interesting. And you contrast that with Black Panther, who had a different take on things. And they built to that event over about 2 years worth of Avengers stories, so that when you got to the miniseries, you were having the action and stuff, but all the groundwork had been laid. This sort of pops up out of nowhere. It's just like, boom, it's time for a miniseries. And I don't know that it has a point the same way that the original Crisis on Infinite Earths had a point. The point there was DC had acquired other characters. They'd acquired Charlton's superheroes. They'd acquired Shazam. They had all these different characters, but that they were just sort of in their own worlds. And they were like, let's have an event which simplifies everything and condenses these worlds into one. There was a purpose to it. I'm not saying it was perfect, but there was a purpose. This is just meant to be, hey, here's a big, exciting thing. The stakes are bigger than you comprehend. But because there's no emotional core or proper buildup, I find it unwieldy. I think it's just too much. I hope that I've given that some context. That's probably more than you need, but those are my thoughts on Dark Crisis. I don't think that the creators are bad creators. That's what I want to make clear. I think that this has beautiful art and great characterization. Joshua Williamson, I don't think, based on this, is a bad writer, but I do think that this is just like too much of a cosmic event out of nowhere, and I'm not quite sure what they're trying to accomplish. Black Phoenix says, I'm burned out on Universal Cataclysms at DC. I made an episode, I think maybe a couple years ago now, about like just summarizing each of the Crisis events in DC's history. And I said, they've created a brand where crisis means something important for DC. But they definitely were running the risk of that meaning less and less every time they use it. Here's something that I was impressed by. This issue of Batman, newish creative team of Chip Zdarsky and Phil Jimenez. Super great team. So, all we know of what's been going on so far is there's a new robot that came out called Failsafe, which is trying to kill Batman. Why is that created? Here it's answered. Batman, we already know, has a backup plan for how to take down any of the Justice League of America if they ever get out of control. They're sort of talking about that in this prelude here. And Superman's like, well, what's your plan to take down Batman if you ever get out of control? Well, it turns out Batman had a contingency plan, and he had a contingency plan for that contingency plan. That's kind of hilarious and kind of in character for what they've been doing. His contingency plan is, if Batman were to kill, Failsafe gets activated to take him down. Batman built that character. And then, if he needed to, he's got his backup personality that he psychologically trained himself to have called the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, which is basically Batman without any access to Bruce Wayne. It's just Batman all the time. So, it's kind of crazy. But it's kind of fun. This is a lot of action, and I do like the premise of sort of like, hey Batman, like what if your contingency plans just don't really work? Because let's be honest, honestly, a lot of times they don't. But this is great. Batman and Robin versus this robot Failsafe. It goes in some interesting directions. Oh, and why does Failsafe get activated? Who exactly did Batman kill? He didn't kill anyone. That's revealed in, like, there's been an ongoing Catwoman backup here where she's been looking for the heirs of the Penguin, who supposedly was killed. The Penguin faked his own death, and that's what activated Failsafe. It's fun. I like it. I like it quite a bit. Batman has a contingency plan for his socks. Exactly. Alfred's like, Master Wayne, I'm sorry. I only have one sock that came out of the dryer. I don't know where the other one went. He's like, that's okay, Alfred. I have a contingency plan. I have Amazon Prime, and I already ordered another replacement pair of socks. Robin got shot, Andrew Jefferson. And another thing, that's called Batman Superman World's Finest, which is an out-of-continuity separate story. I'm pretty sure that that's where he got shot, right? Wait, maybe not. Maybe not. This is what happens when you've got multiple continuities. And if Dark Crisis was trying to streamline that, I'd be all for it in some ways. Where did Robin did get shot? Was it in the regular Batman title or was it in World's Finest? Maybe it was in Batman. You're right. Does this Batman of Zur-En-Arrh follow the continuity established by Morrison? Yes, it absolutely does, Urus. This explicitly refers to two Morrison stories. Tower of Babel, when he was writing Justice League of America, JLA, and Batman R.I.P., I want to say. Was that like Batman of Zur-En-Arrh? So actually, if you've read Grant Morrison, Chip Zdarsky builds on that stuff without needing you to know all the details. So he brings you up to speed with what you need to know, but if you've already read it, it's going to pay off a little bit more. Hey, Dean. Yeah. Thanks, Dean. I enjoyed doing that Adam one. The Dead Lucky. This is the latest Image comic set in what's called the Massive Verse, which could also be simplified as saying takes place within a shared universe with Radiant Black. So we've got Radiant Black, Radiant Red was a miniseries, Radiant Pink is coming up. We've got Rogue Sun is a superhero in that universe that's down in New Orleans. We've got the Dead Lucky. There's one coming up, Inferno Girl or something like that. You don't have to read them all, though. Even though they're set in the shared universe, they don't really cross over. which is nice. It's clean. Great artwork by French Carlemagno, who I'm not familiar with before this book. The writing by Melissa Flores is nuanced. So we've got a superhero, okay? Bibi. She's a really interesting character. As a superhero, she's got sort of electricity powers, but they're actually powered, at least she thinks, whether she's right or not, we don't know, but powered by the ghosts of some of her friends. Yeah. And so Bibi is, she's got, let's see, she's got a Mexican mom and a Chinese dad. She lives in San Francisco. She's a veteran with serious PTSD. And she has these interesting moments where she'll sometimes talk directly to us, the reader. And we get to know her really well. Along with all of this, she's working with a friend. She wants to do good in this world, or she wants to make a difference, maybe. That's probably the best way to say it, is to make a difference. I get the impression that she didn't necessarily leave the military voluntarily, that, like, her PTSD sort of got her drummed out. But she's got these powers now, and she wants to try to make a difference. But she's not all there, she's definitely unbalanced. She pushes people away. But in this, she starts taking some steps to work with them. Anyway, it also takes place in a world where, like, a super rich company is controlling, like has sort of, not controlling, but, well, controlling, but not in a super literal sense. A super rich company has, like, loaded up San Francisco with all sorts of drones and sort of like robots, and wants to take over the police force, like, as a private business. So there's a lot of conflict between the people, the police, business, a lot of different characters. But the cool thing is, there's always cool action at the heart of it. So I definitely recommend it. They are doing Kamen Rider comics. Oh, I didn't know that. Who's got Kamen Rider? Have you ever been to Stewart NG Books in LA? I have not. They've got a lot of good art books. Okay, thanks for the heads up, Victor. It's been over a year since I've been down to LA, so just been a minute. I got to keep up with these reviews so that we can, like, get to the news. I know that's why a lot of people come here. Yeah, sort of an occupation force, but, like, one that, like, isn't breaking any laws or anything. That, the police are, like, having to work with them, even though they don't not all want to. Basically, like, the local government has agreed to allow this company to police their streets. It's very much Andrew Jefferson, like the sort of RoboCop premise from RoboCop 1. So in Punisher has been recruited in this new series. This is issue 6. Jason Aaron writing. Punisher has been recruited to lead the Hand, the evil ninjas of the Marvel Universe. And when you lead the Hand, you're powered by the Beast, this powerful demon that gives them their abilities, which basically amounts to, like, they know how to resurrect people. Punisher is doing that because they've resurrected his wife and promised to resurrect his children. In this, he's going up against Ares, the god of war. And Ares is, we'll say, disappointed. Not just angry, but disappointed, because it's revealed that, like, Frank Castle was basically, like, the man he chose to be sort of his avatar of, like, a never-ending war out there. And that the reason Punisher hasn't really, like, died or been seriously hurt, even though he's just a man, is because he's sort of always had a god watching out for him. And he's really angry that the Punisher is thrown in with the Hand, sort of this other religion. And, he kicks Frank's ass because it's a god versus a man. It's interesting because this book goes into Frank's history. The regular art is done by Jesus Saiz, but there are flashbacks by Paul Azaceta, or Azaceta, I'm not sure. What we learn in this is that Frank has been an angry and disturbed individual since before his time in the military, his time in Vietnam, and coming back. We come to realize that he wanted to be better, but he did have a lot of trouble emotionally connecting to his own family. Yeah, so like we learned that he actually killed someone at age 10. He saw a thug kill somebody in the middle of the street and get away with it, and so he set up a trap and killed that guy at age 10. And he's been a kind of disturbed individual ever since. So this is really getting into like who Frank is, and I like it. It all makes sense. It all fits very cleanly. It isn't like some deep retcon that throws out anything that's happened before. We're just going further back and getting to know him on a deeper level. And you get the sense that he struggles. He struggles to be good. He knows right from wrong. But he literally does have trouble, like, emotionally connecting with people. He's not completely incapable. He did fall for Maria, his wife. But we talk in this one about, like, how he had trouble connecting. Like, when he saw a picture of his firstborn son, it says he stared at it for hours, struggling to understand why he didn't feel anything at all when he looked at his firstborn child. To me, that makes sense, because I've always thought that Punisher is a disturbed individual. He may have a mission that, like, has him taking out criminals, and he's good at it. He doesn't, like, kill innocents, supposedly, and stuff like that. But he's not a good person. He is a murderer. And this just helps us understand him. It's a very human portrayal. It's not all good or all bad. I like it. I think that they're doing something good with Punisher, because Punisher can be hit and miss for me. I liked him in the 90s, but I was also younger, and, yeah, he's like Rambo. You know what I didn't realize, folks? I'm enjoying this She-Hulk run. Rainbow Rowell, the writer, I hadn't looked up who she was or what she'd done before. The people at the comic book store that I go to helped me out. Ashley was telling me Rainbow Rowell writes young adult fiction. I had no idea. But of course, Marvel's always looking these days to pull people from different types of backgrounds so that there's new ideas being thrown out, that it isn't all just like recycling the same thing again and again. But I'm liking this book a lot. In this, what's the main thing? Yeah, She-Hulk is trying to get business for her and her sort of frenemy Mallory book. They're running a very small law agency. I don't know what that's called. What word am I looking for there, folks? It's not called a law agency. Law firm? I guess it would be called a law firm, even if it's two people. I don't know. Oops. Do it like that. Sorry for my English viewers. I don't know. And Mallory book wants things to just be normal. She's tired of like dealing with superhero stuff because things always get crazy. But Jen gets the business of not just the X-Men, but all mutants. Because if you've been keeping up to date with Marvel, all of the mutants have united and they have their own sovereign nation on the island of Krakoa. They're growing all sorts of like medicine and technology that's very valuable to the world. They've come to Jen to get help with things like that a lawyer would, immigration status, patents, things like that. So a huge amount of business, and Mallory Book's like, yeah, okay, you know what? That's so much business. I'm okay with this. Anyway, it's great. It's lower stakes drama than we've seen before, but it's really nice. And meanwhile, she's trying to solve the mystery of Jack of Hearts, who's, let's face it, a C or a D-list superhero that's been around the Marvel Universe plenty. He's been on the Avengers several times, but he's never seemed that interesting that writers have delved into who he is. Jack of Hearts supposedly died, so why is he back? That's a mystery. And second, his powers seem to be going away. But what's nice about this is we start to get to learn who he actually is as a person. He likes things like poetry, You wouldn't necessarily have expected that. He's a really smart guy. You know, he went to college and stuff like that. He's enjoying having his humanity back. He's like honest about himself. He's like, yeah, I had big powers, but like the superhero life wasn't necessarily for me. You know, I never made a big mark there. He's like, I'd love to make a mark doing something else. He likes to cook. He's a pretty nice guy that's honestly interesting, and his mystery is interesting, and his relationship with She-Hulk, they've never really had a friendship or anything before, but they're forming a really nice friendship here. I like it. I like it quite a bit. So it's romantic. It's got some light adventure. I find it very charming. Beautiful artwork. I love it. You went to college, DN22? All right. Hey, maybe you're the next Jack of Hearts. We don't know. Okay, this is the last weekly comic. Invincible Red Sonja, issue 10, final issue of this mini-series, basically, or maxi-series, maybe, 10 issues. Written by partners Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti, artwork by Moritat. It's hard to sell you on the final issue of something. All I can say is Red Sonja got involved in this epic adventure where she was protecting a princess. She finally sort of saves the princess and brings her back to her homeland. The princess has evolved and become tougher and smarter. Red Sonja has perhaps become a little more empathetic. But when they come back, the kingdom had been ransacked. So this is almost like an epilogue or a coda where she just sort of sets the last bits right. Beautiful artwork, funny, pretty funny, good action. Totally a good series. If this gets collected into a trade paperback, Invincible Red Sonja. I really like that. Because they probably have others like Immortal Red Sonja and stuff, but I'm talking the Invincible Red Sonja, I really liked. Folks, I'd heard so many good things about this run, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. It was an 8-issue run, and I hadn't picked it up, but I kept hearing good reviews. Hello, Dr. Shoebill. They've collected it into a trade paperback. Written by Tom King, art by Bilquis Evely. She's brilliant. This is almost like the definitive Supergirl story, in my opinion. Supergirl goes to a planet with a red sun because it's her 21st birthday, and she wants to have some drinks and actually feel it. Okay? Under a yellow sun, she's got all her powers. She can't really feel intoxication. That's what she wanted to do. On that planet, a simple farm girl has had her father murdered by an overzealous, like, bounty hunter type guy. And she wants revenge. And she convinces Supergirl to help her. And they chase this guy across the galaxy. And you just really get to know who Supergirl is. She's constantly making tough decisions to be a good person, but she's got an edge to this. Even though she's compassionate and heroic and stuff, you know, she talks crap, you know, she swears a little, she roughs people up when necessary. It's pretty cool. I don't know. You know, she has no problem, you know, like, kicking butt when the time is right. This thing, and here's what's great about it. It's all written from the point of view of that simple farm girl, okay? She's really young. Even though she's sort of naive and hasn't experienced a whole lot of the world, she's very book smart. And the writing is from her as an adult. Yes, it's like True Grit, Connor. That's exactly what it's like. It's like True Grit in space. So it's closer to a Western chase than it is to a superhero or a sci-fi comic. Those are like the window trappings, and these two characters are just so damn likable, and they go through such hardship in this like quest. It's so rough, but you really get to like care for them, and the people they're going after, like just the scum of the earth, just the worst villains possible. And there's just so much to like about this. The artwork is epic and gorgeous. And I was trying to say that like simple farm girl, she's got a big vocabulary. So even though she's naive, she's writing and it's really eloquent. It's really eloquent writing, and it feels like she has a different voice than Supergirl's. So yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, she's got personality in this. She is not just a female Superman. She really isn't. You know, she talks about how, like, you know, I can sort of get why people get annoyed with Clark, because he can be such like a goody two-shoes about certain things. One of the best parts of this story for me is they finally catch up to one of the villains. And he has this device that sends her to the other end of the universe, like planets and planets away. After they finally caught up with him, she instantly gets sent to this other planet, which has a green sun, which means she has not only no powers, she's in physical pain. She says that Superman was sent here once, and he only lasted like 45 minutes. He couldn't save himself. The Justice League of America saved him. She has to wait 9 hours until the sun sets, and she'll get her powers back. So this girl has to sort of protect her against all these sort of dinosaur creatures for like 9 hours. And Supergirl is just suffering, just in complete pain and agony, just miserable, and like can barely do anything. And she just has no choice but to try to tough it out and hope for the best. It's amazing. Folks, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I read this in just 2 days, 8 issues, and I'm pretty busy, but I blasted through it in 2 days. I loved it. Strong recommend. Strong. I always pick up some back issues if I see something at a good price. I picked up the first American edition of Judge Dredd, which has artwork by Brian Bolland, and it's in color, so that's kind of cool. And then this was like a book published locally here in Washington State back in the 80s, Desert Peach, about like some relative of like Rama was the desert fox, right? Anyway, it just seemed so weird, and it didn't cost much, so I want to read that. And then I got a really cool book sent in to me to the P.O. Box. Ultimate Millennium #2 by Ryder Lundquist. Haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but Ryder sent a really beautiful letter and even did some fan art. I thought that was pretty cool. What do you think? Thank you very much, Ryder. Congratulations. A 64-page comic. It's impressive. Trust me, that's a lot of work. How much was that, Judge Dredd? I think that was 100, if I'm remembering right. I think it was 100. Cyberforce. Sure, I remember Cyberforce. Yeah. So, last week I was doing some more work on this Vampirella cover, and like the stream was dealing with some lag issues and stuff. I was scraping away at some of the zipatone that I used, or screen tone, so that like I had some highlights, and I was starting to do a background that was very reminiscent of Crisis on Infinite Earths, which this is a direct homage to, right? I decided this was busier than I want it to be. So, I'm going to draw the background separate. I'm just going to draw 2 characters. I'm going to use Photoshop to comp them in here. And I think that like 2 is more than enough for what I'm doing here. So this is going to be Pantha, and this is going to be Draculina. Those are just 2 other characters from the world of Vampirella. So I think I'll mostly work with technical pens because I don't want these to be too lush or distracting from the main art. But I've got some like layouts here. That said, I'm going to get into the news in just a second. Yeah, exactly. Uno de estos días. This is meant to be a cover with a lot of tropes, you know, cliches, really. A gorilla on the cover for no reason, death, sexy ladies, guest stars. I'm basically designing a cover that has like a lot of gimmicky stuff to it intentionally. Yeah, that is nice artwork of me. I agree, Black Phoenix. Hey, Chris, I was wondering how much time in advance you plan your videos for your other channel. Oh, for Comic Tropes? I'm always working on several at a time. So some of them can be done within sort of like that week time frame, but some of them I'm doing the research and the reading for several weeks out so that I have potential things that I can grab when I'm like, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do. I'll always be close with something. So it's a little hard to say. It's a little hard to say exactly. Like, different ones take different amounts of time. The one I did most recently, actually, I did within basically a week because I just felt inspired, and usually I can work faster when I'm really excited. Greetings from Panama. Well, greetings from the US of A. So let me start with some of this, and let's get into some of the news. There's some cool news. Tell you what, we're going to start the news. This is going to be tough news, everybody. Brace yourselves. Sit down if you're not already. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Here it comes. DC has announced that they have canceled FanDome for 2022. I know. FanDome is everybody's favorite. I'll explain what it is and why in just a second. Oh, look at that. Daniel. Thank you. From Sweden. I don't know what the currency in Sweden is off the top of my head, but thank you for the super chat. Thanks, Chris, for the fun birthday greetings over on Facebook and Twitter on Thursday. Absolutely. Daniel had a birthday this week. Great guy. Happy to send those wishes on to you, online amigo. Daniel has written several comics that he's had published at places like Marcosia. Definitely worth looking up. Thank you for the super chat. Very kind of you and very, very much appreciated. Wow, Andrew Jefferson, thank you also for a super chat with a surprised hippo. Did I do it? I thought you were going to say that DC Comics had announced another crisis. Krona! Thank you, Jeannie. Jeannie knows. Our grandmother was from Sweden. You know, Jeannie, I hope someday that you and I can either visit Sweden or New Zealand together just to see, or both, you know, to see a place that, like, one of our grandparents was each from. I think that, like, we should do that together if we ever have the opportunity. I would love to take a trip with you. So yeah, DC FanDome. They did it for 2 years, right? Yeah, they've done 2 of them, I think. I don't know if it was done for 2 full years, but they've done 2 of them. And the idea was, look, with the pandemic raging, there weren't really any conventions, but they wanted to sort of present something, engage the fans. That's perhaps the most honest and still, like, nice way of saying it. They wanted to engage with their fans, so they put on sort of a virtual event. And honestly, it got a lot of viewers. I think the first one had like 22 million viewers, but the second one they did definitely had like 66 million viewers. That's a pretty good engagement. But they announced that they're not going to do one for this year because now things are going back to like in person again. You know, we have things like New York Comic-Con coming up. We just had San Diego Comic-Con. So DC has said they're going to put their efforts into supporting the in-person events with, you know, signings and panels and stuff like that, like as compared to hosting their own separate thing. So, you know, I think we'll all get over that. For instance, at New York Comic-Con this year, they've announced that they will have a Star Labs, like, the booth will be Star Labs that you can sort of go through, and it'll be based on how that sort of sci-fi science lab has been presented on the show Titans, which I think is fun. Wow, Meow Nian, thank you so much. Would you say that the mismanagement of DC reflects Zaslav's true goal of buying out CNN because, wow, he doesn't seem to give a crap? I can't go that far because, honestly, like, I do think that you get to that level and people elect you because you've got an eye for overall business. You know, you're not just focused on one thing. These are people that can usually focus on several things at a time, find some ways to manage them, and bring up profits. But I will say that I don't think he's respecting DC a whole lot. I've yet to see anything that gives me a lot of confidence in what they can do with it. So yeah. And it's clear that he does have a political agenda as well. You know, like CNN is one of the big sort of jewels that Discovery got with this huge buyout of Warner and everything. And it's definitely gone from sort of like a little bit in the middle to fairly right. It's made some pretty drastic moves pretty quickly since Zaslav took over. But I'm more focused for the purposes of this show on what they do, obviously, with DC Comics and the DC movies. It seems weird that they canceled Batgirl since it wasn't even going to be released in theaters. It was always meant to be an HBO Max thing. I don't see how, even if it wasn't great, that isn't... You've already made it. Like, why wouldn't you release that content? There's got to be people like us that even if it's not good, we'll give it a shot. And that'll, like, keep the monthly subscription to HBO Max going. And I don't necessarily think it would have been bad, but, like, we'll never know. Because they canceled that and wrote it off as a tax write-off. You know what? Let me just jump to another piece of news that's sort of related. One of the things that President David Zaslav has said he wants to do for taking over is to come up with a new role called DC Chief, which would basically be Kevin Feige's role as an executive producer at the Marvel stuff. You know, he oversees all the Marvel stuff. And there's definitely a certain amount of consistency to be found because of that role. So, like a week or two ago, the news was going to be that, like, they were in discussions with this one producer, Dan Lin. He's produced some big movies. I know the Lego movie was one. He did some others that were, like, big hits. And Dan Lin was supposedly very interested in the role. But those discussions did fall apart. He's out. And apparently that fell apart because Dan Lin wanted Discovery to buy a stake in his production company, Rideback, as part of the deal. Like, he feels he has obligations to, you know, his own production company, which makes a certain amount of sense. And anyway, that, like, sort of derailed it. So back to square one. Right now, the person that oversees everything, like, because there was somebody sort of doing that before David Zaslav bought everything. This guy named Walter Hamada. And he is still in that role, but he plans to retire. Supposedly, he wanted to leave the second they canceled Batgirl. Like, he got really mad about that, because that was a project he'd shepherded. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Let's move on to something more fun. As long as we're talking about movies, let's talk about the Marvel stuff. Because Marvel's kind of fun, generally. This past weekend was the biannual D23 Expo. That's Disney's convention, where they always announce a bunch of Disney news, Star Wars news, Marvel news, Pixar, all the stuff that they own. But I'm going to focus on the Marvel stuff that we know for sure out of this. Let's see. I'm just seeing what the conversation is. I'll oversee DC for health insurance and Wiz Comics too. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good bargaining model. Here's some of the things that were confirmed for Marvel movies and TV shows. Thunderbolts. I love the original Thunderbolts by Kurt Busiek and Mark Bagley. Love that premise. Does not seem like the movie version is quite following that exact premise, although there have been different Thunderbolts teams. This one seems to be more of like a government team of villains and anti-heroes, kind of like Suicide Squad. I'm maybe that can be interesting with the characters they're using, but it's not the direction I would have gone. The Thunderbolts comics, if you haven't read them, the original comics, the Avengers had like gone away. Okay, stuff happened. There was no Avengers anymore, or Fantastic Four. So there was a vacuum. Like, the world wanted heroes. This new team shows up, calling themselves the Thunderbolts. They save the public a few times. Everybody's on their side. Behind the scenes, we realize that the Thunderbolts are actually all existing supervillains that all they did was put on new costumes and give themselves new names, and they're just trying to win over the public. Now, they're led by Baron Zemo, big Captain America villain. He's Citizen V. But what's cool is along the way, several of those characters realized that they kind of like being respected and appreciated and helping people. And they actually try to become heroes. That was a good arc. That was a damn good premise. We'll see what happens. There could be twists to this, keep in mind. And if there are, they're going to keep those secret. But they did announce that the team, they announced who the team is, and it's all characters we've seen in the movies so far. We've got Yelena Belova, so the current Black Widow, right? She's fun. That's cool. We've got Red Guardian, again, fun. Taskmaster, okay, you need to have somebody that was sort of a villain, so that makes sense. Winter Soldier, okay. U.S. Agent, okay. And Ghost. Oh, and Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. That's Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. She's supposedly manipulating all these people. Let me just point that out again, that in this team that we're looking at, Yelena Belova and Taskmaster, they were both presented basically as like Black Widows. So we've got like 2 Black Widows. We've got Red Guardian, Winter Soldier, and U.S. Agent. We've got 3 Captain Americas. 3 Captain Americas, 2 Black Widows, and Ghost. Like, almost the only one with any actual powers. It's a lot of similarity is all I'll say. I would say you didn't need all of those. I think it would have been a lot more fun if you'd been able to throw in, say, Abomination, or somebody like that. Now, Abomination seems to not be a bad guy anymore, we'll see, but, you get what I'm saying. A villain with powers. That could have been more interesting to me. Yeah, spies and spy adjacent. So, okay, it just means that this movie will probably be closer to, like, the Captain America and Black Widow movies than it would be to, say, Avengers. I would just say I would have loved to have seen it presented as, like, that there's an Avengers team, right? Like, we see these heroes sort of getting assembled and stuff, and maybe right at the end of the first act, we realize that these are actually villains that we've known before. That could have been a good twist. That could have, but who knows? Who knows? I'm wondering if one of the team members is a Skrull. All right, you know what? That's an interesting idea. That's interesting, Heister. I didn't even contemplate that, so that's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, I wish that they had introduced characters like Moonstone, Beetle, Goliath, Songbird. They're all really cool. I won't be surprised if Zemo is involved in this and maybe like manipulating things behind the scenes. That would make sense. That would make sense. And Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine has been Madame Hydra, so I could sort of see a scenario where she's working for Zemo. Or vice versa, but something like that. I could see that, but I don't know. Other things that got confirmed. This one's kind of fun. Captain America New World Order is the 4th Captain America, with Sam Wilson now as Captain America. They announced the villain for this. It's somebody that they're bringing back from the 2nd ever Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. The leader, Tim Blake Nelson. Tim Blake Nelson was in The Incredible Hulk back in 2008, and at the end of it, he got some gamma serum poured into an open head wound. It implied that he was about to become the leader, a huge supervillain in Marvel. But they haven't done anything with him. Well, it's called New World Order. The leader is a manipulator and stuff like that. I'm going to assume that this is like a super genius that's been playing a long-term goal, like creating like, like maybe sleeper agents or something like that. But yeah, he'll be the villain. And I have to admit that, like, while the leader is usually a Hulk villain instead of Captain America, I do like that they're bringing him back. I think that could be a lot of fun. And Tim Blake Nelson he's a quirky character actor that can, like, probably add a little bit of humor to the role of leader. It won't just be, like, super serious. It could be really fun. I'm hopeful there, actually. I don't know why, but that sounds cool to me. Maybe I'm a nerd. What else did we see? Oh, you know what? This was fun. Jonathan Ke Huy Quan. A lot of us do remember him from Goonies, being Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. As he grew up, he stepped away from Hollywood for a long time. He came back this past year with still my favorite movie of the year, Everything Everywhere All at Once. He was great. He's joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's going to be one of the main cast members of Loki Season 2. As to what character he's playing, that's a mystery. But I have a lot of love for that guy, nostalgia-wise. Yeah, Genie, Data. And I think that's cool. And here's one of the most fun parts of it. So he was at D23 to, be on that panel for Loki Season 2. They brought out the stars and stuff. The panel right before Kevin Feige's panel was the Indiana Jones panel, which had Harrison Ford. Backstage, Jonathan Ke Huy Quan bumped into Harrison Ford. There's a picture, and he's like, "Do you remember me?" Harrison Ford hasn't seen this guy since he was a little kid. And Harrison Ford got so excited. There's like a big hug. You don't usually see Harrison Ford give big smiles. This picture, he has like one of the biggest smiles. And it's just charming to think that these guys like had such a good time making that Indiana Jones movie that we're talking like what? Like more than 30 years? What was that? 1985 maybe? I want to say 1985 might have been Temple of Doom. Oh my god, that's longer than 30 years. That's like 37 years. That's almost 40 years. Almost 40 years. And it's just so charming seeing them so happy together. Doc Samson was in the Hulk movie, Clay. He's played by that guy that was the main dad on the sitcom Modern Family. I want to say Ty Burrell. I never watched that sitcom, but Doc Samson was in that movie, so they have that's been cast. Oh, you saw the picture, Mac? Yeah, 1985. I had it right. Thank you, Daniel. By the way, Daniel Ke Huy Quan did study martial arts like as he grew up, and while he stopped sort of acting, he actually did do some fight choreography in some movies. I want to say the one with Jet Li, and I think the first X-Men movie. I'm pretty sure he helped with the fight choreography on both of those movies. And he does some martial arts in Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's pretty cool. So who knows? Maybe he'll even have like a little bit of an action role in Loki. That would be fun. I don't know what to expect there yet. But I'll always have a certain amount of nostalgia for stuff like Goonies. Not as much as my sister, though. I think she likes it even more. And if you ever come out to visit, Jeannie, I'll drive you down to Astoria where they filmed everything for the Goonies. It's amazing to see. It's really cool. Could Disney use a Spidey villain in Thunderbolts? If it's a character that was created in the Spider-Man comics, they'd have to basically work out a deal with Sony to do that. So if they did it in something like animation, they could. But if they did it in a movie, they'd have to work out a deal with Sony for that. Yeah. Exactly, Caveman. Yeah. So anyway, I think I had... Okay, I have two more little pieces of Marvel news for the movies and stuff. They had the Daredevil Born Again panel, and they confirmed that Daredevil Born Again, the upcoming show, like in over a year of... it's going to be 18 episodes. Yeah, it is a bit of a soft reboot. It is not a direct sequel to the Netflix TV show. So even though they recast Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin and... I'm blanking on who plays Matt Murdock Daredevil. I really like him. Obviously, a lot of us do. All of a sudden, I'm blanking on the actor's name. I didn't write it down. But anyway, they got those actors back. The Daredevil that we're seeing in, Spider-Man, No Way Home, She-Hulk, and the upcoming Daredevil TV show, it is new. So they're redoing some of that stuff. Anyway. Just so that's cool. And then there was a trailer. There were two trailers that they released. One for Secret Invasion, Does look fun. And then one for that excited me even more, Werewolf by Night, coming in October. Sort of like a horror one-shot based on the werewolf character from the Marvel superhero comics. And that should be a lot of fun. By the way, I definitely, looking closely at that trailer, I saw Man-Thing was in there. So it's not just Werewolf by Night. We've got Man-Thing, and I saw, I believe, Elsa Bloodstone, who's a monster hunter. Charlie Cox, thanks everybody. Charlie Cox. So even though Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are playing their roles again, it is not explicitly a sequel to the Netflix show. No, they are sort of rebooting the characters. But now that we've got the multiverse, it makes sense to use the same actors. We can say that like the Netflix series was basically just like half a step parallel to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and everything works. Yeah, doesn't Werewolf by Night look cool? Ah, cool. I'm glad that people are saying that they thought it looked like fun. Soft Reboot explains why Daredevil is in his yellow suit. Exactly, it could explain stuff like that, because we haven't seen him in the suit quite yet, have we? So, starting fresh, and you know what? I don't think that's a bad thing. I did like the Netflix series quite a bit, but if they can tie it into the Marvel Universe, I'm not totally against them redoing some of that stuff. Born Again is an amazing storyline. It's possible to do that maybe a little differently. Not necessarily better, but differently and still be good. Do I have a favorite Leb Sale comic? Probably The Long Halloween. Yeah, The Long Halloween. Werewolf by Night and Man-Thing. Yeah, who knows how much Man-Thing is in there. And it's a blink and you'll miss a thing, but it's definitely Man-Thing. I think I got a screen frame because I was like so amused by it. Let me see if I'm remembering correctly. Yep, I did grab it. Okay, so I don't know how well this will turn up, but that's like a black and white still frame from the Man-Thing. I mean the Werewolf by Night trailer. That's totally Man-Thing. That's cool. Some people are like, hey, I think the quality of like MCU has gone down since the Avengers movies. I could sort of see where they're coming from, although I have a different take on that. I'm still amused no matter what that they're giving us characters like Ant-Man and Man-Thing and Moon Knight. You know, like they'll I won't be surprised if you see Wood God show up in a Thor movie someday. You know, like they'll use anything. Do I have a fave Calvin and Hobbes? Not necessarily a favorite strip off the top of my head, but someday I do want to do something about Bill Watterson on my channel. Spare us the giant size man thing? Oh, okay. Okay, I'll spare you for this episode. Anyway. Lots of Marvel stuff. I'll explain. Like, so I said I have a slightly different take. I think that one thing that really captured mainstream interest in the Marvel Universe was that there were always hints in the post-credit scenes, basically, to building up towards something. You know, in the initial Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and Thor movies, the excitement was, okay, we're seeing just enough connective tissue that they're going to meet someday. And a crossover in a movie was, at that time, rare. That was going to be pretty unique. So the first Avengers was definitely something special. And after that, you know, they hinted at Thanos for quite a while with the Infinity Gems. Now, in Phase 4, I think we're dealing more with, like, the repercussions, and we're laying the groundwork for the multiverse. I think that once we get into the multiverse and we're building towards something like that, that's going to, like, all of a sudden, I think, interest people a little bit more. Because I don't think the individual quality of, say, Thor 2 and Shang-Chi is all that different. I really don't. So I don't think that the overall quality has gone up or down that much, personally. I think it's the connective tissue that kept people excited for what was coming next. They were always anticipating what was coming next, and they're not doing as much to hint at that right now. Is there a character more popular than Garfield? Yeah, I think a few. Mickey Mouse, Super Mario. Yeah, there's a few. The best Calvin and Hobbes is the one about ignorance is bliss. Oh, okay, all right. I see you there. Bear with me just a moment. I'm just doing a little bit of fine line work for some hair, which I always want to make sure looks good and right and awesome. In my opinion, Multiverse of Madness was so close to top tier if they had let Raimi get completely Raimi wacky. I liked it a lot, for what it's worth. I liked it a lot. Yeah, sometimes I wish it could have gone even more over the top with some of the horror, but I get it, and I liked it. Lord Luke Lightbringer, thank you very much for the super chat. That means a hell of a lot to me. Have I ever read the Trigon Empire series, and if so, what are your thoughts on them? Not only have I not read them, I'll be honest, I haven't heard of Trigon. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, I'm afraid. Is it a book? Is it a comic? Is it a movie? Trigon. I don't know Trigon. Is it fantasy or sci-fi? Tell me a little bit about it. I just don't know. Anybody out there got any trips planned anytime soon or going to any conventions? We're sort of getting a little bit back to normal, so I'm always curious about what people are up to these days. I'm going to go to New York Comic Con. That's a month, right? That's less than a month, or right around a month. Is that the series by Don Lawrence, Lord Luke Lightbringer? Yeah, I don't know. I would really like to know. Oh, there's one other thing they did say about the Marvel stuff was that there's no plans to do X-Men specifically anytime soon. And I'll be honest, I think that makes sense. They could introduce like one or two mutants here or there, but I don't think they'll do the X-Men right away because there's a lot of stuff to X-Men. There's a lot. And once you launch that, I think that would sort of become the dominant force of the Marvel Cinematic Universe at that point. And I think that they still want to get some mileage out of the stuff like Black Panther and Marvel, new Captain America, Thunderbolts. They want to like get some more mileage out of like the stuff that they've introduced, and then they'll like once they go like into the X-Men, that's going to be a big deal, like how mutants are seen by the rest of the world and how that changes the world. So yeah. Let's see, for trips, Moritaka says, not anytime soon, but I'm hoping to visit my friend in Switzerland early next year. Oh, Switzerland, how beautiful. Switzerland, I think, was like the one country that did not want to go into lockdown at all, no matter what, because almost all their money is made off of tourism. So, like, they were really pressured into doing that by the rest of the EU. But anyway, I'd still love to visit it. I'd love to visit Switzerland. That sounds really nice. Pretty crazy that they can get to keep the X-Men in their back pocket. It's a huge trump card, If anything like ever really starts falling apart for the MCU, they can pull out the X-Men, and that's going to get some mileage, at least Wolverine. But like, think of all the popular characters that they have there, like, Gambit, Nightcrawler, Storm. There's a lot they could do with the X-Men and like spin-off teams and stuff. There's a lot. Hoping to visit Japan in 2023. Me too. My money is on Wolverine appearing in Hulk. That's a possibility, maybe. Yeah, depends on how far in advance they want to reveal somebody like that. Off to North Wales in just over a week. But don't worry, I'll have Wi-Fi and won't miss the stream. Okay, Dave. It'll be really late there, so if you do, I appreciate it, but thanks. I went to Wales once. I went to Cardiff. It was beautiful. Beautiful. Chrissy and I really had a great time there. Reminded me a little of like where I grew up because it's on like, the water and everything. Reminded me of that. Andrew Jefferson, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. Let's see. Got any episodes planned for more Golden Age wackiness? There's so much left to mine. It's like a gold mine. Not off the top of my head right now, but I do love it when I can find an especially good weirdo. Like that, I have a lot of fun talking about that. It's like, it doesn't really teach us too much that's new that I haven't like said before, but they're a lot of fun to make because I like to sort of, I don't know, just make a jokey episode every once in a while. It's honestly a little easier for me and helps me catch up with everything else I'm doing on the show. So sometimes episodes are like that are just sort of to help me catch up and still give you guys content because you have to constantly feed that YouTube algorithm and keep people engaged. Hulk appeared at my birthday party. I don't know how he has the time. What with the napkin and balloon company. You missed the super chat before mine? Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. Oh, is this it? No. Oh, okay. Lord Luke Lightbringer explains. The Trigan Empire is a science fiction comic series written mainly by Mike Butterworth with artwork by Don Lawrence. I haven't heard of it. The Trigan Empire. I'll pull it up right now just so that I've got it in my on my phone to look into later. Because, yeah, I don't know that one. Thank you for the super chat. That's really, really kind of you. Oh, wow. Cool covers. I see some by Alex Ross. Huh. So is this British? Looks like it's British. Science fiction. I'll look into it. Thanks for the recommendation. Appreciate it. Let me take some water. I haven't had anything for that. Wait, what was that about? Trying to get this one. Something about Dynamite Thor. And I'm having trouble finding it. Okay, everybody told me that I missed the super chat. Will we ever top Dynamite Thor? Oh, will we ever top it? I don't know. No, I've never read any of the Power Rangers comics. And, I feel like I get along really well now with Kyle Higgins. Ever since I interviewed him for talking about Radiant Black. I really admire that guy. He's a really friendly guy that's been very kind to me. And he wrote a bunch of the Power Rangers stuff. But no, I don't have anything against Power Rangers, but I also have never, I was just at an age where I was a little too old to be super into it. I was definitely aware of it right when it first started, the first year or so, but I was a little too old to really get into it. So I'm just not much of an expert on Power Rangers. So when they came out with a comic, I didn't jump into it. But I will say that when I've seen some of the artwork by Dan Mora, I'm like, wow, that looks gorgeous. Maybe I should read it just to see that artwork. Nope, actually, Wally, that's what I'm getting right to right now. So, but first I have to acknowledge a super chat. Let's see. Matt says, thanks for always putting out good content, Chris. Really brightens my day every time you upload. Glad I was finally able to catch a stream. Well, obviously, I'm glad, too. Thank you very much for the kind words, Matt, and for watching. It means a heck of a lot to me. It really does. Fuel in my tank. Do I speak Spanish? Yo hablé solamente un poquito de español. You could send me a comic in Spanish. It takes me a long time to sort of translate it. I have to sort of write it down and think about it to get it. I'm like a baby with Spanish. I took Spanish in college, but I have never had to use it regularly. Sometimes I will get a customer at my job that only speaks Spanish and they want to buy a car, and it's slower, but I have sold to people that speak another language. But I'm talking like a baby, I'm just using word, not sentences, just few words here and there, and I'm like more speaking English and hoping that they can catch some of that English. It's tricky. Yeah. Are you following the Seahawks-Broncos game? I'm not, but that is on. So let me just check the score. My team is the Patriots. I grew up, in the Boston area. The Patriots did not look good in their season opener. That was not fun. Oh, tie game. Okay, well, that's exciting. You can speak more than I can. I've been trying to practice Japanese for years, and I'm still absolutely terrible at it. I have the hardest time with other languages. I'm just not good at it, but I want to be. But I'm not. But I don't give up. Hopefully, you know what I think you really need, though, to get good at any language is immersion. Whether that's in a school setting or one-on-one with somebody or actually living in that place, you need that immersion to actually get good. It's hard to... Your Mexican was really great in your Mexican Spider-Man episode. Thank you, Francisco. That took a lot of preparation, basically. That one took a lot of preparation, but I'm glad I did it. It was a lot of fun. I'm proud of that episode. Enough preamble. Time for some more news. Because I've got a heck of a lot more news that I got to get to. And some of it is pretty spicy stuff. But this one's fun. So, since 1984, Stan Sakai has been making Usagi Yojimbo comics. They're awesome. Trust me, I'm going to be talking about it on Comic Tropes sometime in the near future. Love Usagi Yojimbo. I think Stan Sakai is brilliant. He's had 4 different publishers. Let me think. Fantagraphics was where Usagi Yojimbo started. Mirage Comics with Ninja Turtles, they published a few. Then, for a long, long time, Dark Horse Comics. And then in, 2020? Did I write that down? Yeah, since 2020, Usagi Yojimbo's been at IDW. Steve Sorensen saying, "Boo Patriots, you like who you like." Well, thank you for the super chat, buddy. That's nice of you. Hey, you grow up with the team you grow up with. So Usagi Yojimbo has a long history, but it is creator-owned, so that's why he's been able to take it to different companies. And so, yeah, it's been at IDW for a couple years, right? It's going back to Dark Horse. But not just going back to Dark Horse. It's going back there under Stan Sakai's new imprint, which is called Dogu. And they issued a press release about this saying, "The goals of the Dogu imprint include to create a space for up-and-coming creators and artists to be featured and to expand the Usagi Yojimbo universe through working with other artists and writers." Hey, I'm all for up-and-coming creators. I'm all for more Usagi Yojimbo. You know what's cool about Usagi Yojimbo? I'll just say this real quick. Each storyline, it can jump around in time. And so it isn't super continuity based at all. So even though he's been around since 1984, it's very easy to pick up a new Usagi Yojimbo story and it'll just be that story. Characters can come and go, supporting characters, and that's because it's very much based on, a fictional talking animal version of feudal Japan. It's based on real people and real parts of history. So you can jump around. And didn't it start at about the same time as TMNT? Yeah, well, like I say, yeah, 84, yeah. It did start basically at the same time. Yeah, black and white stuff. I can't wait for a new Usagi Yojimbo Comic Tropes episode. Sakai's Usagi and Mignola's Hellboy are 2 of the greatest creator-owned comics of all time. I agree, Rick Ray. I totally agree. Have I ever interacted with Sakai? Heard he's super nice. I've heard that too. No, I've never met him. I do have a signed copy of Usagi Yojimbo #1 from Fantagraphics. So I do have that, and I like it. I like when I do an episode, because there's so much history, I don't want to summarize it all. That's not really what I do with the channel. I think what I'll do is analyze one story arc to sort of show what Stan Sakai does that's unique and what's cool about Usagi Yojimbo. And the one I'm leaning towards is called Grass Cutter. definitely a really strong story arc. Early one, but yeah. Anyway. Both TMNT and Usagi were at Mirage for a time together, too. Yeah, I did mention that, yep. Sounds a lot like Conan. I guess there's a few similarities there, yeah. A few similarities. Let's see. Usagi has crossed over with TMNT, including on animated shows. Yes, there's quite a bit of history between those two. And that includes getting an action figure in that original toy line by Playmates. So there's definitely a lot. What is this drawing here? Just drawing some background characters. I decided to simplify this sort of cover that I'm drawing, where with a gorilla holding Vampirella. Instead of drawing a bunch of like weirdos all over the place in the back, I just felt like that was too cluttered for what I was trying to do, and I'm just going to draw two supporting characters from Vampirella in here, and yeah, just keep it a little simpler. So just sort of pecking away at that while I talk about news. Let's talk about some big news. Some news that I think I hint at in the title of this episode. This is the one everyone's probably going to honestly click to once I put the chapters up after I upload this. It's about gatekeeping in comics. That's the broad strokes topic here. I'm going to put my pen down to sort of like read, because I've got a lot of notes about this story. How many people out there are familiar with Jason Pearson? He's a really talented artist. He's created stuff like Body Bags. He's drawn X-Men. Drawn lots of stuff. Oh, Tari says that he's met Stan Sakai twice and he's a great guy. That's so cool. That's a really happy note. Thank you for the super chat. Jason Pearson had a weird online interaction this week. Very, very strange. So, he took on the role of a gatekeeper, as in, telling someone, how they're allowed to be part of comics. It was very strange. There's an artist, Afua Richardson, and Richardson is a musician. She's a visual artist, and, most relevant to this, she works in comics. Her book that she illustrated, Genius, won the Top Cow Pilot Season Award back in 2008. Let's see. So she's worked for Marvel, DC, Image, some others. She's done a lot of work, and while she's active in a lot of different art fields, she's been pretty steadily active in comics since 2016. A lot of covers, a little bit of interior work, but she's been definitely active in comics. And she shared on her personal Facebook page some artwork this past week. Out of nowhere, Jason Pearson replies to it, and he says, no. Don't come into my industry without being vetted. Even at the lowest ranks of the industry, I earned my place the hard way. You didn't. That is a strange post, in my opinion, to say. First of all, I don't know what makes it his industry when he says my industry. I feel like it's everybody's. But we'll sort of get past that. And he says, without being vetted. What does that exactly entail, being vetted? I don't know exactly what he means. There's so many different ways to break into comics, and I feel like if you get into comics, cool. And if you stay in comics, it's due to your work and your reputation as a person, which she's done for a long time. He deleted that post, by the way, that reply, because it didn't go over well. But then he made a whole huge big post on his Facebook page talking about how he's tired of people working in comics that haven't proved themselves. It's very strange. Who set him up as this authority? What does he have against Richardson? I really don't know, because to my knowledge, they don't have any real history together. But she replied to that post saying, she's not new. She's been working in comics for quite a while. And he shot back that he's been working in comics since 1990, so to him, she is new. And it escalated from there. He basically implied that she sort of prettied her way into comics. Strange accusation. I'll give him this, which isn't much, but let me give him this. He eventually posted again on his page this past week, and he apologized for the thunderstorms in his head and said that he'd chalk it up to climate change. So, I don't know Jason Pearson very well as an individual. I don't know, like that almost comes across to me as possibly like some sort of mental problem. And I'm not saying that lightly, because I'm not trying to be an armchair psychologist, but I'm trying to say maybe he has an issue or something that I'm not, I'm trying to be respectful, because he is a talented artist, but that is some weird stuff to have said to this lady, who seems to produce a lot of work that's really appreciated and liked, because 2016 consistently till now is not a short amount of time, in my opinion. People can come and go within a year or two sometimes. So anyway, I don't know what to make of that. I haven't seen any other real news following up on it, so maybe it's a one-off. Doesn't seem like Richardson is trying to make a bigger deal out of it, and like what's done is done. So it's probably in the past now, but it was a weird back and forth between them when he made that post about saying like you need to be vetted, and she was like, okay, like I was like when I was breaking in, guys like Neil Adams told me that he liked my stuff and that I had like the chops to go forward. Isn't that vetting? And I feel like that's Anyway, you know what? I wasn't necessarily going to say anything about this, but there's something a little similar in that there was another creator that had a weird meltdown this past week, and I'll just be more brief about this, but Dale Keown, one of the best Hulk artists ever. You can't take that away from him. Great Hulk artist. Great artist. But apparently he's thrown into... I haven't talked about the Alfred V for Vendetta stuff yet, McDagger. I guess I didn't realize this until this week when he had this weird event, but Dale Keown is part of that. We'll call it Schmamic Schmate, because I hate talking about it, because I don't want to get into it. I don't want to fight those people. If they like comics a different way, they can do that. So I'm not interested in getting into like that, like a fight there. But anyway, he's part of that, okay? He did his first live stream, and credit to him, he attracted a lot of views and a lot of subscribers for a first live stream, but it was a weird one. He starts off like dialed up to 11, and he is cursing out Marvel and Disney, saying that they R-worded the Hulk, that they ruined him, this, that, and the other. He's like just full on boom, he's got stuff to say. And he rants like that for about 30 minutes, and he starts professing his love for somebody named Mandy. Okay, that gets weird later, you'll see. And then he passes out drunk. And he leaves it live streaming for over 4 hours. About 5 hours. Until his girlfriend barges in, and she'd gotten a call from someone concerned because he's still live streaming and he's just slumped there in the chair, and she wakes him up, and he was just passed out drunk. And then he mentions that he accidentally kicked over his words, he kicked over his piss bottle. So the poor guy is not doing well. I hope that Dale Keown has people close to him that can get him some help, because I just scrubbed through the live stream, and it was not funny, and it was not pleasant at all, and I just felt pity for the guy. He's a good artist, but just doing terrible. It was awful. I don't know if he got banned or anything, although now that I think of it, after he did that, not only did he keep drinking, but he also lit up a joint. And I don't know if you're allowed to smoke pot on a live stream. I feel like that might be a violation of YouTube's rules, but I'm not sure on that. I'd have to double check. But anyway, it was not pretty. I'm going to leave it at that because I have nothing else to say. I just felt bad for him. Dale Keown is who I was talking about. Let me move on to something way more positive, okay? I just want to jump into something positive, and that's Marvel talking about their Stormbreakers class of 2023. Now, Stormbreakers is just meant to shine a light on upcoming talent. Emerging talent that's really starting to make their mark, and Marvel is acknowledging that, like, they see them as, a big part of their future moving forward, and is going to start putting this talent on some of their top books. And so, basically, they've been doing this since 2020, coming up with their Stormbreakers class. Before that, they had a program called the Young Guns, which was kind of similar. So, let me list who they've announced, and I'm curious, speak up in the chat room or the replies if you're familiar with any of these artists and what you think about them, okay? Some of these are some pretty exciting talents. So yeah, these people will be on like high-profile titles for the next 2 years, basically. These are their Stormbreakers. We start with Elena Casagrande from Italy. She's worked on stuff recently like Spider-Man and Black Widow. Next, we've got Nick Klein from Germany. He's currently working on Thor with Donny Cates. Nick Klein's amazing. I do like Nick Klein quite a bit. I've seen his work with, all sorts of stuff. He had a cool Deadpool story. I think he's done a bunch of stuff with Rick Remender that I liked. Anyway, yeah, he's really cool. Doing all right, Dizzy Dennis. Thank you for the kind words. Let's see, what else? We've got Jan Basildua, and I'm probably mispronouncing some of these names. I'm sorry, I've never heard them out loud. But Jan Basildua from Mexico, working on stuff like Star Wars and X-Force. We've got Chris Allen out of Texas. He's been working on Miles Morales Spider-Man. Very cool. Martin Coccolo from Uruguay, working on Edge of Spider-Verse and X-Men. That's pretty high profile. Lucas Wernick from Brazil, working on Immortal X-Men. C.F. Villa from Mexico, working on Black Cat fairly recently. And finally, Federico Vicentini from Italy. I read his stuff on X Deaths of Wolverine. So yeah, some interesting creators. And you may have noticed that I was listing where these creators are from, which just shows that, like, these days with the internet and like the ability to like scan stuff and send it and stuff, it's amazing. Marvel recruits from all over the world. If they can draw good stuff and stick to their deadlines, we've got people from Italy and Brazil, and of course the USA and stuff. But isn't that amazing? Just like artists from all over the world. Oh, look, Andy Kuhn's here. Andy says Nick Klein is incredible. I agree. So are you, Andy. So are you. CF Villa is great doing X-Men right now. Yup. Just curious. Elena is crushing it on Black Widow. Shame the run ended early. Yeah, but obviously Marvel's showing some faith by, listing these names. They try to give these people an extra boost with this. It's nice. Glad to see they're promoting such a diverse set of artists. It feels like I don't feel like this sounds like diversity for diversity, because if you look at these people's artwork, and that's the thing, I wish I could easily just have a setup where I could start showing you images as I'm talking through the news. At some point, maybe I can get a better setup where I can do that. Cool art all around. Very cool art all around. Hashtag blush. Oh, man. Business is going global and the world is getting smaller thanks to the internet. Yeah, And, you know, for good and for bad, but yeah. An artist from Uruguay, and I never heard of him. I'm from Uruguay. I hope I'm pronouncing Uruguay correctly. Yeah. The Uruguayan artist was, Martin Cocolo. Very cool artist. Very cool artist. Yep. I think that's exciting. You know, there's even, like, some artists from other countries now doing, like, manga work for Japan, which is more rare than, like, what we do here in the U.S. or even, like, you know, like, say, like, in Europe, like, you know, Bande Dessinée will, like, you know, it's not just French artists. They'll pull from Italy and Spain. They've always pulled from other places. The U.S. has, like, a history, obviously. You know, we've pulled artists from different parts of the world, especially, like, you know, the Philippines, for instance. Josh Padilla, thank you for the super chat for no reason. That's I appreciate it. Yeah, Uruguay exists. There's like 197 countries out there, and I can name them all. I don't know if I could name them in alphabetical order, but if you gave me a map, I could point to each one. It's a stupid little thing that I can do. Sometimes I'll slightly misplace countries in, say, like Africa. Like if you ask me where Mali and Malawi are, I might get those swapped or something, but I could at least name them all. No, Finland is very, very real. Art should be international. No, but I thought it was interesting that, like, you know, people from other countries are doing manga because I love Japan, but they are a little more culturally isolationist than other places. That's just sort of how they are. And so if you want to work at, you know, a Japanese company, you have to speak Japanese. You can't just be talented. You really do need to speak the language. That's essential. But they're starting to bring in talent. I know from Korea, there's a lot of South Korean talent that has started to break into manga, and one or two people from America too, which is just really cool to see that. Like that's very different and new. Name one comic artist from Finland. Yeah, I don't think I could. Although there is a convention going on just a little to the south of there in Denmark this coming week. But that's not Finland, so anyway. 197 countries. Can we add 3 more to make it an even 200? I'm talking about, like, at least what's recognized by, you know, the UN and stuff. Yeah, I know. You wish, like, we could have 3 more, even 200. Back in the day, this is a super chat from Andrew Jefferson. Thank you, Andrew. You're very, very supportive of the channel. I appreciate that. Back in the day, they had, like, the Filipino invasion to cut costs by paying less to the artists. Is that still a thing at the major publishers? Probably not as much, to be honest. I think that it's much more easy to share salaries these days. People are willing to work for less, but, you know, at a big company, you don't want to get caught doing something too shady because you can open yourself up to lawsuits. And I don't think the main point of getting Filipino artists was necessarily to cut costs. That was sort of like a side benefit that Marvel happened upon. But anyway. Finland has more heavy metal bands per capita than anyone else. That whole area up there, though, to the north, right? Like, lot of death metal up there. Who was that one heavy metal guy? Was it in Sweden or Norway that, like, killed his bandmate and, like, went to jail for, like, you know, several years, but is now free? Who is that? I'm trying to remember. I'm going to look it up because now I've got to know. I've got to know. I'm sorry that I'm quiet while I'm looking this up. Maybe somebody out there knows. 195? Maybe there's a couple that I know that, like, aren't recognized anymore. I think maybe... Oh, Varg Vikernes? That was Norway. It was Norway. Yeah. Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. From, I want to say the band Mayhem. I'm trying to see if I have that band right. Anyway, that's just... they have such different jail systems up there where, you know, like, you can murder someone, you'll go to jail for a few years, and then you're free again. Yeah, the band in question is Mayhem. I do have that right. Yeah, Varg. Okay, a few people know who I'm talking about. Crazy story. Crazy story. If you ever want to... Like, I think that there was a movie made about it, too. Like, anyway. So, the Stormbreakers. Go Stormbreakers. We've talked about the international stuff. Let's move on. I need to draw more. I'm obviously drawing super slow tonight, but that's because I don't want to mess up. You know, I want this to look good if it gets printed. Let's see. The film Lords of Chaos. I saw that. Yes, that's the movie I'm thinking of. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. Tells the story of Varg. Yeah. Did you think that we were almost done just because we're getting close to 7 o'clock? No. I've got 4 more pieces of news. Put that on your calendars. 4. The Hugo Awards are fairly prestigious awards, and they recently had, you know, their event and gave out some awards, and I thought it was worth mentioning because comics won an award, and comics don't always win things at the Hugo Awards, so that's a big deal. It's for like the best in sci-fi, and that can cross everything, you know, a lot of books, could be podcasts, film, art. Anyway, so the awards for the best in sci-fi and fantasy, the Hugo Awards, this is for stuff that was created in 2021. They were announced at the 80th Worldcon just last Sunday, so while we were doing this, that was going on. And among the winners, DC's comic Far Sector, written by N.K. Jemisin, with art by Jamal Campbell, that won Best Graphic Story or Comic. So that's cool. Moomin, you're right. People were trying to think of like a Finnish comic. You're right. Moomin. Chrissy, my wife, likes Moomin. Moomin's cute. So anyway, I've heard good things about Far Sector. I haven't read it. Am I missing out? Have any of you out there read Far Sector? Because I don't think this is the only award that it's picked up. My understanding is it's won several awards. I would love to know what it's won. I'm trying to think this outfit through. Let me use pencil. Moomins are everywhere in the shop I work at. Are you using any of the pens I sent you? Yeah, Jeannie, I am. You sent me some of these. Thank you, sister. Get yourself a sister that supports you. That's my recommendation. Never heard of it. It's worth it for the art alone by Jamal Campbell. Okay. Far Sector is cool. All right. I thought Far Sector was great. I honestly think you would enjoy Far Sector. A lot of people saying that they like Far Sector. I will trade 2 poor sisters for the one that supports me. The Helsinki Comics Festival took place this past weekend. No kidding. Man, I would love to go to a European comics festival. Like, if I could go to, what I think it's in January, is Angoulême in France. Like a week-long comics festival. I would really, really love to go there. Just to see what it's like and experience that. Far Sector is a Green Lantern detective story with a new Green Lantern. Oh, a detective story. Okay. Right on. bear with me. I'm going to look up the outfits that these characters wear, because I'm not super familiar with that part. And then I'll be right back with more news and jokes and stuff. Let's see. Hey, Chris, just watched your recent video on motion in comics. Amazing vid as always. That's nice of you. I read comics on an app and noticed that the flow of reading a page can be obstructed by zooming in on my device. Well, it all depends on the format that it was really envisioned for, doesn't it? Because, you know, if you... I've been reading some Korean, you know, webtoons and stuff, and it's all designed to be, like, scrolled, just top to bottom. It works well, but, yeah, not quite the same when you go to sort of translate paper comics into digital ones. Lake Como has a big comic festival in northern Italy. Oh, it's probably so beautiful there. Well, thanks for mentioning my latest video, Josh. Yeah, over on Comic Tropes, I did one on different ways that people can present motion in comics, which obviously super important to convey a story, but I just feel that there's so many different interesting ways that people have come up with over the years to convey. Because we tend to think of just speed lines, I think. I think like the default is thinking of speed lines, but there's a lot more to it. There's a lot to like about him. God, I love comics. I think it's just such an amazingly versatile storytelling medium, you know? Alright, did I miss anything? Have you read any of those conversations with insert name here? I have the Chris Ware and Seth ones, but they cost a fair load of magic beans on Amazon. No, I feel like I'm missing out. I'll have to look up what those are. The new Marvel Unlimited comics are designed for scrolling and are done well. That's cool to hear. For a while I did have what do you call it, Marvel Unlimited, and I did appreciate how much they had on there. There was a lot. It was nice. What else? Chris, you should grow a Hulk Hogan mustache. I think that this one's pretty good. Because I've still got the beard, so it's not just the mustache. I don't know if I'd look weird with just a mustache. But I have been growing this out. And I've been getting some compliments. I think the age of the mustache is here, folks. Your motion in comics is the first video I haven't watched on the Patreon release. I was too busy with work. Oh, sorry to hear that, Joe. What superhero do you relate to most? What supervillain do you relate to most? Superhero? Spider-Man. Because he's always stressed out about, you know, his life outside of just being a superhero. Like, you know, making enough money. Whether his friends like him. Is he letting down his family? Yeah, that stuff I relate to. Supervillain? Probably somebody like Doctor Doom, because he's smart. He's got sort of his own code of honor and ethics. They're not the same as mine, but I can at least admire, like, you know, that he values intelligence and he values, like, you know, a certain code. So I try to be like that in some ways. Oh, nope, Andrew Jefferson reminded me. I relate to Paste Pot Pete the most. Yeah. I'm trying to put together my first cosplay costume. If I can get all the elements, I'm thinking of going to the New York Comic Con as Paste Pot Pete on the Saturday day. So we'll see what happens there, but that could be fun, right? Paste Pot Pete, like how ridiculous, right? No one will know who I am, but I think it's a funny idea. We'll see. But that's my current plan, is to go as Paste Pot Pete. Not the Trapster or anything cool like that. No, I'm going to go as like the original Jack Kirby design. He's just got like a green jumpsuit, a purple beret, a purple bow tie, and just a bucket with a gun that shoots paste. Max power! Do you have a favorite Clayface, and why that one? Yeah, the actor that got transformed into the actual like shape-shifting guy. I'm forgetting the actor's name, though, right now, because I don't read a lot of Clayface stories, but that's definitely the best one. For a favorite, like, story or iteration, I'd probably go with his first appearance on Batman the Animated Series, although the Clayface on the Harley Quinn show on HBO Max is pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Do a Halloween live stream video as Paste Pot Pete. Oh, maybe I will. You know what? Tell you what. If I put it together, I'll put on the costume for here. Although you won't really get to see the whole thing necessarily. But yeah, I'll consider doing that. Matt Hagen, actually. Matt Hagen. Yeah, Matt Hagen. Yeah, everybody else guessed. That's the guy I was thinking of. Thank you. Basil Carlo was sort of he was the original one, right? And he was an actor, but I'm thinking of the Matt Hagen one that actually got transformed into an actual, like, shapeshifter guy. Who was the best superhero from New England? Oh. Is there even a superhero from New England? I can think of characters who've spent time there. Wonder Woman was obviously in Boston for a long time. The Night Stalkers, Blade, Hannibal King, and the third guy. They were based in Boston. But is there anyone actually from New England? I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'd have to use Google to figure it out. I don't know. How many donations so we can get a Paste Pot Pete Halloween live stream? What day of the week is Halloween? Let me look it up. Let me look that up. That might be a possibility. Monday night? Oh, perfect. So instead of feeding those kids candy, I just do a live stream here on Halloween. I think Speedball was from Connecticut, but I could be wrong. But I think Speedball was from Connecticut. The Tick? Well, the Tick was created by somebody in New England, but he wasn't set in New England explicitly, Gene. He was set in the city, which was basically New York. Monday. Yeah, I don't know. $500 in Super Chats, and I will live stream Halloween night as Paste Pot Pete. And guess what? If I only get $0, I'll probably do it too. Hey, I know what I should tell you guys about. You don't want to miss this. Batman Day. Yes, every year there is an annual Batman Day, and that's coming up this Saturday. I'm not planning on participating in Inktober. I just am too busy, unfortunately. Connecticut isn't New England? Would it be? I guess I thought New England was like... Oh, in Connecticut probably would be, wouldn't it? Yeah, like Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine. Would that be New England? I don't know. I guess I don't know for sure. Would Connecticut be? Connecticut is just, I always think of it as like so close to New York, but man, maybe it is part of New England. So maybe if Speedball is from Connecticut, like I'm thinking, then I guess Speedball. How much dollars in Super Chats to get you to eat another piece of gum from the Batman 89 trading card set? Yeah, I really don't want to do that. That stuff was disgusting. I don't even know. Do I still even have any? Let me just look. Oh. Actually, I do. Well, I've got pieces of it from, like, one of them. I've got pieces. I don't want to do that. It was disgusting. But, I mean, I guess everybody's got their price, and you asked. So, for $200, I'll chew on it for a while, but I ain't going to swallow it, and I'm probably going to end up spitting it out. You're from Connecticut? Nice. New Hampshire is Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Okay, okay. So now we just need to check to see if Speedball is from Connecticut, like I'm thinking, and then he is the best superhero from Connecticut. So there you go. So anyway, let me continue. This Saturday is Batman Day. There's free stuff. So let me tell you about that, because who doesn't like free stuff? Yeah, $50,000? No, $200 and I'll eat the gum. Literally, I mean $200, because it's disgusting. Where is the set you film your videos on? I'd hardly call it a set. I've got a small guest room that is basically where I record my show. That's all it is. It's like, you know, I've got like the wall directly behind me is a shelf with comics. I've got a spinner rack. I've got the Ninja Turtles arcade machine. And then I've got my camera and lights. And then like basically clothes, props, and costumes also sort of just end up stacked in there. It's not the biggest space in the world. I'd love to rent a space someday. I've built up the anticipation enough, right? Okay, so Kent Nelson is from Salem. Oh, that makes sense. Here's what you can get at a lot of your local comic shops this weekend. DC has provided a couple free Batman comics for the stores. One is called Batman Hush #1 Batman Day Special. So that's like, I think the first chapter of Batman Hush by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. And there's also, for more all ages, there's Batman's Mystery Casebook Batman Day Special Edition by Shawley Fish and artist Christopher Uminga. And DC's also releasing Batman the Audio Adventures on all the podcast platforms. It used to be exclusive to HBO Max. So, some free stuff to celebrate Batman Day this Saturday. If you want to get some free comics at your store, who knows, maybe your local store will have like some Batman cosplay or something like that. You might want to look into that. But just an event that like brings people into comic shops. If you had Pate's Peace pot, how long would it be before you turned to a life of crime? Like 2 seconds. 2 seconds. You think your laws are enough to stick me in the slammer? I'll just stick you all right where you stand. Things are about to get sticky with my paste. Have you ever considered doing a tour of your drawing desk and all the different art supplies you use? Folks, you don't want to see this table. It's, okay, I'll describe it to you, because it's a mess, okay? First of all, let me knock on this. That is a plastic fold-out desk, okay? So starting from this corner over here, I've got a desktop computer that Chrissy had built. There's this webcam balanced on top of it. Then I've got like an arm that you could put like a microphone or something like that on. And it's got a ring light and this camera, which is a little bit better than that camera for like resolution. There's a keyboard over here, like right in front of a monitor, which is also like right there, sort of right up against the edge of the desk. Over there, I've got a Hot Toys Batman that I lost the cape on, which frustrates me a lot. A Jason Voorhees action figure. And a couple little like blind box things that I've opened on this show. I've got like a little bit of water here, a jug of water. I've got, I was actually looking for this. This is a nice X-Acto knife that I was looking for. This is actually what I want to use to scrape away the Zipatone here. Yeah, that'll be much better. Oh, that's so much better, yeah. I'm going to do that in just a sec. Like, this is something I want to do for getting this to look a little nicer. What else do I have? Then I've got like an empty water bottle and an empty cup, so I haven't cleaned up very well. I've got a piece of scrap paper that I take some notes on. I've got a lot of used up brush pens that I haven't thrown out yet. Lovely. For some reason, I've got a little Lego figure. I guess I've like unboxed some blind bags. Just here to the left of like my drawing area that you usually see. Let's see, I've got a ruler, and I've got a couple different things for like holding up like a tripod and stuff like that. And I've got a tripod here. And then I have like about 3 stacks of comics that I've like reviewed over the past several weeks and months. Just stacks of comics. I haven't organized them. I've got a file box that has a bunch of drawings that I've done in the past. I've got a crown. I don't know why I had this, but I've got a crown that was used as a prop in some video. And I've got like an Infotron plush. I still haven't found a good way to make these available so that I can sell them, because I don't have the time to mail them out individually. I need like to find some sort of fulfillment center. And I've got a little tiny Lego set of the Mandalorian with Grogu. It's just a mess. It's just a bunch of stuff. It's totally disorganized. You know, I just have stuff like a pair of scissors here, or like a nib holder, but I don't have like the nibs like right here. So I don't know. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. Some of this stuff is nice, you know. I've got a little brush here for like if I wanted to ink with fine detail, and I've got some Bombay Black India ink, Dr. P.H. Martin's, which is I think pretty good dark black ink, so I can do some fun stuff like with different techniques. But yeah, it's just all gathered up. It's a mess. Josh, thank you for the super chat. What is your favorite Hulk story and Hulk artist? Give me a minute. That's an interesting question. My favorite Hulk story is very likely to be something by Peter David. I really like... No, you know what? Sorry. Even though I love Peter David, I really liked Immortal Hulk. Yeah, I like that take on him a lot. I think that Immortal Hulk was badass and cool. Like, that's my favorite overall Hulk. After that, like for Peter David, I liked Future Imperfect with the Maestro. I think that was pretty great. What else? So those are some of the favorite stories. For favorite artist, Dale Keown would be up there, even though I don't necessarily like him as a person. I think he's definitely like one of the best Hulk artists. There's something I like about Jack Kirby's initial take, which was like sort of Frankenstein-esque. And Jeff Purves was an underrated one. Sal Buscema is great. Marie Severin had some good Hulk stuff. People forget about her. Yeah. There's a lot, though. There's a lot. Like, Peter David had a really good long run with some really great stories, honestly. Good question. What else do I have for news? I got distracted with the question about like this sort of layout, which is just terrible. You do not want to see it. Amazon canceled something that I liked, but I haven't finished, to be honest, so maybe I'm part of the problem. There was a Paper Girls live action adaptation, and I like Brian K. Vaughan a lot. He's like one of my favorite writers. So Amazon had a live-action Paper Girls TV show. They've announced this week that they have canceled it after just 1 season. I think a lot of people didn't even know that it existed, because I posted about that on Twitter, and people were like, I didn't know that there was a show. Which just shows that Amazon spends its resources in some strange ways. Like, everybody knows about The Boys. Everybody knows about Invincible. They've made some really good comic book adaptations on Amazon, but they didn't promote Paper Girls at all. For what it's worth, the production company that makes it, Legendary, says that they are trying to shop it around to find a different home for it. We'll see. I don't have a lot of hope for that, but yeah. Big news, Charles got crowned. Andy Kuhn says, Michael Golden killed it on his Hulk Spidey story. I don't think I've read that, and I love Michael Golden, so I don't think I've read his Hulk Spidey story, Andy. I'll look that up. I'll look it up. I think that's one I might have missed. How likely is it that they'll cancel Rings of Power? Completely unlikely. Allegedly, in order to secure the rights, they had to give a 5-season commitment up front. So, they've already invested like about $2 billion on that. I really don't understand why streaming services cancel shows so quickly. Jeannie, there's a very good reason. They create them because it gives you new subscribers, right? There are fan bases for these things. And the rate of people canceling after they've added isn't as much as they gain from putting that show on. So they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. Unless it gets really great ratings, they don't care. They've already brought the people in. They're already subscribed. People are lazy about canceling subscriptions if there's like a few things that are halfway decent. I have to admit, I keep thinking I'm about to cancel Netflix, and then they'll release a show that I do like. You know, I'm trying to think. They really, like, I was about to cancel it, and then Stranger Things Season 4 came out, and I really liked it. And then I was about to cancel it again, and then Cobra Kai just came out, and I really like that show. Very different shows, but I do like them. So I end up keeping it, you know? And they don't care. They at least Netflix doesn't. Probably Amazon is very similar. They don't need that fan base for each thing. They just don't. It brings in new viewers, new subscribers, but then they don't see TV. They have to like keep that base because those people keep watching and they can sell the ad rates. But if you just subscribe to something, you're on board. And, you know, as long as they've got a few good things, you're probably less likely to leave. Who's got 2 thumbs and got a DVD copy of Killer Clowns from Outer Space autographed? And got a photo op with the team. Wow, that's funny. That's funny. Brian K. Vaughn's is one of my favorites too. Yeah, please, Brian K. Vaughan, just hold tight onto Saga, because they did Why the Last Man dirty by canceling that after a season. Now they've canceled Paper Girls after a season. His comics are so goddamn good, and it just hurts. Marvel Fanfare number 47. Thanks, Andy. You just saved me a little bit of a Google search there. Marvel, I'm writing it down. Marvel Fanfare. They just don't make books like that anymore. Marvel Fanfare, Marvel Premiere. They used to have, like, you know, back in the day, miniseries weren't necessarily as much of a thing. They really weren't until about 86. So, if you wanted to just do a short story with a character, that's why Marvel had books like Marvel Premiere, Marvel Fanfare, Marvel Team Up, Marvel 2-in-1, things like that, where you could put in a character for an issue, 2 issues, 3 issues, and then just move on to something else. But they don't really do that anymore. People don't love, in America anyway, they don't love anthologies. It's very strange. Last piece of news, and this is the most bonkers one. Yeah, Kale's talking about Why the Last Man. It did get, that show got really, really hurt by the pandemic, because it just became a thing of like, they were holding on to the actors, but they couldn't film, so they were paying, and it just got to be more of a budget thing. That is fair. Fingers crossed on Disney Plus Marvel Team Up. Yeah, maybe. I miss those old anthology titles. Me too. They could be hit and miss, but you could get some really good stuff. I mean, we would never get characters like Iron Fist and Adam Warlock if not for those anthology titles. All right. So, apparently, there is a TV show. I knew this, and probably most of you know this. There's a TV show based on Alfred. Alfred from Batman. Yeah, Batman's butler. Now, here's the crazy thing. It's about to start season 3. I have never watched it. I don't know about this. Alfred's a fine character. But I'm not a fan of a TV show that's going to go on for as long as it possibly can, set in the Batman world, that's going to do everything they can to do Batman stories without Batman. In a comic, if you want to have Batman swing in because it makes story sense, you can. And if you want your story to just be like 5 issues and you're done, you can. On TV, you want to just keep going and going and going. So I don't love the idea. It might be fine. It might be a good show. I haven't watched it. Obviously Gotham went on for a long time. People liked it. To me, it was bonkers. Like that all these Batman villains were coming out while Batman was like, 8 years old or 10 years old or something. It meant that like by the time he was going to be Batman, he was going to be battling like 60 and 70-year-old men that the police never had a problem with in the first place. Like the logic didn't make sense to me. Like extrapolating, like, well, what about when he becomes Batman? Like, seems like the police have been like locking these guys up. And what? He's going to be fighting 60-year-old men? Go Batman. So now we've got Alfred, and Alfred, yeah, they've in comics, he's like a former SAS like guy. He's been around the world, he's an experienced guy. It's cool. He's not just like a fussy butler. Like they've built Alfred into an interesting character over the years. They have. But season 3 already of a show about Alfred, I was like gobsmacked, first of all. And they've changed the title. It used to be called Pennyworth. Okay. For season 3, it is called Pennyworth, The Origin of Batman's Butler. That's ridiculous. The origin of a butler. The origin of Batman's butler. And really, isn't it Bruce Wayne's butler? I mean, Batman doesn't go around saying like, I have a butler. Bruce Wayne has a butler. Everybody knows Bruce Wayne has a butler. Nobody says that it's Batman's butler. It's not Batman's butler. He works for Bruce Wayne. He works for Batman, but it's not like the world knows like, oh, Batman, he's interesting. He's got a butler. It's weird. That's a weird subtitle. The Origin of Batman's Butler. Sorry. I'm getting hung up on every aspect of this. They released a trailer. I'm watching this trailer and I'm going like, the hell? Did I just see V? As in V from Vendetta? The Alan Moore book? I was like, did I just see that? And then there's a whole crowd of people with the Guy Fawkes mask. And I'm like, This is V for Vendetta. Like, why am I seeing this in a show about Batman's butler? Well, according to the showrunner, Bruno Heller, yeah, they've absolutely been building up to this to do a crossover with Batman's butler and V from Vendetta. What? That's bonkers. This is really like bonkers. If you told me that Alfred was going to bump into Swamp Thing, I'd go, well, I guess they're in the same world, the same universe. Okay. That's weird, but okay. V for Vendetta was its own thing. Okay? V for Vendetta was about a fascist version of England and this one revolutionary that was out to take the government down. He was an anarchist. He was a little crazy. It's a good story. It's a great story. It was not set in the DC Comics universe. DC Comics owns it. But, just to be clear, let me jump into some background. Well, this isn't Comic Tropes, but I'm going to talk about this. Alan Moore agreed to let DC Comics publish things like V for Vendetta and The Watchmen with an understanding. I just mentioned in the last piece of news, I think, comics used to not do miniseries and stuff like that. They used to not do trade paperbacks. That was not a thing all the way up through the mid-'80s. So, Alan Moore agreed to a contract to let DC publish these things, and they would have the rights to it while they published it, with the understanding that once it went out of print once it had been out of print for a year, the rights reverted to Alan Moore. He had every reason to believe that that would be the case because it was not common practice to keep reprinting things, especially not trade paperbacks. That was not common practice. But DC, somebody in their business team, noticed that there was a loophole there. So while this is legal, I've always argued that it's not quite ethical. But they have always kept things like V for Vendetta and Watchmen in print. Doesn't matter what kind of demand there is, they'll always print a small batch every year, and that gives them the rights, as long as they keep it in print. If they ever stopped printing it, the rights go back to the creators. DC has no intention of letting that happen. So, that's why DC has the rights to something like V for Vendetta, even though it is absolutely not set in the superhero universe. And apparently Bruno Heller has said in an interview that, yeah, they've been building this up, that this is sort of an alternate take on Alfred Pennyworth, and he is in a world where England is becoming the fascist state that they became in V for Vendetta. And it's up to Alfred, not Batman, but Alfred, to solve this problem. I don't know if this means that in Season 3 we're going to have a fight scene between Alfred and V, but I guess it's possible. I guess. Has anyone out there watched this show? Because I haven't, and maybe I'm missing something here. Because you don't get to see 3 seasons if nobody's watching. Yeah, alternative world, I guess. I don't know. I'm getting a little burned out on multiverse stuff. Getting a little burned out. I hope they don't turn Alfred himself into V. Oh my god, that didn't even occur to me. Oh my god, I'm thinking that V would be a character potentially. Alfred putting on the Guy Fawkes mask and fighting like the government who's created this mind control potion stuff. Wow. Wow. That's an interesting idea. Alfred himself taking up the role of V. I don't like it. But you know what? Maybe I'm being a curmudgeon there. Maybe I'm being a curmudgeon. Because I haven't seen it yet, and I do say I shouldn't really judge things if I haven't tried them. You know, you have to at least try something. It just sounds weird to me. It sounds very, very weird. What's the point of tying all of this into Alfred the Batman universe if it's going to diverge from the source material so much? If you have a really good idea, I guess it's worth it. I don't know that I've heard that this is a really good idea. I don't think Berlanti is producing this one, just to be clear. I don't think so. It's Bruno Heller. And did Bruno Heller also do Gotham? That name sounds familiar. I should have looked this up beforehand. Bruno Heller. He did do Gotham. He did do Gotham, and now he's doing Pennyworth. Wow. Boy, this guy loves the idea of the Batman world without Batman. He loves that idea. So, wow, he's done 2 shows based on the idea of like, hey, what if Batman wasn't around, but everything else was? It's so bonkers that, like, maybe it works. Maybe that's why it works. Yeah, I don't know. When is the Powerpuff Girls Watchmen crossover coming out? Yeah, you joke, but you might have just put that idea in some executive's head. That would make Alfred the biggest hypocrite of all time if he turned into V. It would, so I don't know. I'm going to finish like this, like sort of artwork on my own time, but obviously I didn't draw a whole lot today for you, but, you know, I was sort of distracted with how bonkers some of the news was. Appreciate y'all dropping in to be here for this. Means a lot to me. I had a great time tonight. I'm glad that I didn't have any of the streaming issues that I did last week. What other comic properties could we cross over with Alfred? I don't know, Spider-Man. Joe Sacco's comics about war. Can't wait for the Lucius Fox show. Hey, probably is coming. I mean, because they also have Batwoman. That's like all the... It's a lot of stuff without Batman. I thought Smallville was intense, but, you know, I just sort of feel like you almost have to end up working extra hard to keep the character out of these things. Ozymandias versus Mojo Jojo. The pitch has to be, imagine Batman without Batman. G.I. Joe, yeah. Glad to have been here, Chris. I appreciate you all being here. Alfred visits Germany. It's Mouse Alfred. Alfred versus 7-Eleven. Yep, Bazooka Joe. Yeah, the Bazooka Joe comics from the bubblegum. Yeah, exactly. At least Smallville had Clark Kent. Exactly. Can't wait for Alfred Digimon. There you go. Alfred can cross over with everything. Alfred is one of the most versatile characters in all of comics. We all know it. We all loved him as the outsider, right? How many of you out there know about the time that Alfred, for many, many, many years, was back from the dead as the supervillain, the Outsider? It was a 60s time period. Alfred died in the comics, and he came back as the evil Outsider. It's like, yeah. Alfred meets Frankenstein. Alfred versus the Insane Clown Posse. Alfred versus Jarvis, I'd watch. Who would win there? Alfred seems like the bigger badass, but Jarvis has that training by Captain America, so you never know. Alfred versus Archie. Alfred Pokemon Master. Yep. Alfred meets Austin Powers. The Outsider, yes. Alfred versus Army of the Dead. Yeah, I think Alfred Mouse sounds like the next thing that we should have. Or maybe like, Alfred meets some like Crumb characters like Mr. Natural. You remember the Outsider? Yep, Outsider returns. He's coming back from the dead now. Outsider returns, maybe. Oh, that's right, because Alfred is dead in the comics these days, isn't he? Oh my god, they're probably going to bring back Outsider for a while. Alfred meets Abbott and Costello. Alfred versus Godzilla. Yes. Hey, it's all owned by Warner Brothers. There you go. There you go. You could do that. Alfred meets the Three Stooges. Alfred versus Jarvis. Yep, Alfred is DC's Wong. I'd read Alfred versus A. Yeah. Alfred versus Mr. A. Alfred versus Batman and Robin. Alfred versus Michael Jackson. You know, it's like, so they call you Hellboy? Well, I'm a butler. That's a good one, Max. Alfred versus Alfred E. Newman. Alfred and Mary Poppins team up. Oh, that's Warner Brothers and Disney. That ain't gonna happen. Alfred takes down Darkseid in a 1v1. That's season 4. Pennyworth, the origins of Batman's butler versus Darkseid. We're not going to top this. I think we got to go out on top. I've had a good show. It's gone a little longer than typical because I've been having a lot of fun with you folks. I'm excited for next week. There's some comic conventions going on, end of summer stuff, so there should be some good news next week. And I'm just going to start a completely new drawing. I'm just going to finish this one in my own time, but I had a lot of fun with everybody. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you for watching this. If it's archived, it means a lot to me. I'll be back next week. And until then, just remember, keep reading comics. Tell you what am I doing with the one figure? No, you get the double salute. You've earned it. You've earned it tonight. Boom, boom. You've earned it. You guys are good. Have a good evening.